video shows a few different canoe rolls as well as a few tips and practice techniques that help me greatly while learning. There are 3 rolls in particular that I find myself using frequently. Demonstrated here is your low brace roll or standard canoe roll. This roll offers the most leverage from the kneeling position and is the most used of all the sea boating rolls. Next, we will show the back deck roll. The back deck roll offers a means of getting to the setup position of a low brace roll from your offside across the back deck. And finally, we'll show a variation of a roll that I've started using, in which I use the power face straight from the setup position without sweeping out or using the back non-power face of the blade like a low brace roll.
Each step of the roll, from your setup to the sweep out to the roll itself. For the setup, as soon as I know I'm rolling, I tuck to the front deck and get my blade forward. That does a couple things. Puts my blade in the right spot to set up for my roll. It also protects my head and back by getting me as close to the boat as possible. So with the setup, I'm going to go from whatever position I'm in to and I find that the easiest position to be in is actually an offside stroke, because all you have to do is drop your T-grip. So if I'm in a forward stroke and I start to tip, the hardest point to get to that setup position is if you fail in a stern pry. Then you have to get your blade from the opposite corner of your boat all the way to the front. It's really nice to practice that in a pool, so you can practice the underwater recovery and how to disengage the blade and sweep it to where you want to be. So let me show you that. So what I'm doing there is I'm disengaging my blade, slicing it all the way around, and then starting my roll. So a good tip when you're doing your regular canoe roll is for when you set up to cock your wrist or push out with your T-grip, your thumb on your T-grip. What that does is it sets the angle of your blade to sweep to the surface. I'll demonstrate the difference between doing that and not doing that. It's a little tip that I got when I started learning to roll that made all the difference for the setup. So I'll start by not cocking my wrist, by just going to the setup position and trying to set up. You'll see that with a flat or negative angle, you actually dive deep in the water and have less water to grab in your roll. But by cocking your wrist, setting that angle a little bit beyond flat, your paddle will sweep to the surface and give you a lot more purchase. You'll have a lot more water to push down on the roll. Doing this angle will show you how that angle will sweep to the surface. And now if you don't set that angle or cock that wrist a little bit, look what happens. So when your blade dives, you have much less purchase, much less leverage, and you're much less likely to that gets you 90% of the way there and falling back onto your onside because your boat is never actually onto its secondary or initial stability. Fur Trapper's video talks about winding up, bringing that offside knee to your chest. I'll show you the exercise that I do on the side of the pool. By taking that offside knee and bringing it into your chest and pushing away your onside knee, that gives you a large range of motion to rotate the boat without actually doing anything with the paddle or my upper body. The way I think about it is leading by pushing my offside knee away. Once I'm fully wound up, I lead my roll by pushing out that knee and following through with the blade. I know some people, what they think of it as the opposite. They think of pushing out their onside knee and then pulling that to their chest. It's the same mechanism. It's, you know, just talking about it from one leg or the other. But it's really key, starting your roll, to right your boat with your hips and then be following through with the blade and not trying to just huck it all at once with your blade and lower body. The nice thing about a canoe boat or a low brace roll is that separation and how you can do it much slower. It doesn't all have to be once. And I'll demonstrate a really slow hip snap follow with the paddle. So there's almost no paddle in that roll. Started with the hips, and I just glided over the top of the boat without actually putting any downward pressure on my paddle blade. That also allows you to hand roll. Once you really work on that hip snap,
That's all I got for now. I hope you were able to take something away from this. I'd like to give a big shout out and a thank you to Fur Trapper for the videos he's put together. A lot of his role advice is what really helped me, and a lot of the stuff that I covered today is also covered in his videos, so I believe it's on his Vimeo page. Thank you for watching.